Chapter 26, The Brahmin. Verse 383. Play the man and stem the flood of passion. Cast off your lusts, O Brahmin. Having known the ending of the perishable, thou knowest the imperishable, O Brahmin. Verse 384. When the Brahmin has traveled the twofold path of meditation, then indeed his chains fall off him, for he knows the truth. Verse 385. Him I call the Brahmin whom desire assails not from within nor from without, in whom is no fear, he is indeed free. Verse 386. Him I call Brahmin who is meditative, clean of heart, solitary, who has done his duty and got rid of taints, who has reached the goal of effort. Verse 387. The sun shines by day, the moon lights up the night. Radiant is the soldier in his panoply, radiant the Brahmin in his meditation, but the Buddha in his brightness is radiant day and night. Verse 388. By Brahmin mean one who has put away evil, for his serenity is a man called Samana, for excluding his own sin is a man called Recluse. Verse 389. Do no evil to a Brahmin, let not the Brahmin return evil for evil. Woe to him who kills a Brahmin, yea rather, woe to the Brahmin who loses his temper. Verse 390. It is no slight benefit to a Brahmin when he learns to hold his impulses in check, from whatever mode of evil temper is controlled, by that control grief is truly soothed. Verse 391. By whomsoever no evil is done in deed, or word, or thought, him I call a Brahmin who is guarded in these three. Verse 392. As the Brahmin honors the burnt sacrifice, so do thou honor him, from whomsoever has learnt the law of the true Buddha. Verse 393. Not by matted locks, nor by lineage, nor by caste is one a Brahmin. He is the Brahmin in whom are truth and righteousness and purity. Verse 394. What boots your tangled hair, O fool? What avails your garment of skins? You have adorned the outer parts, but that you are full of uncleanness. Verse 395. A man clothed in cast-off rags, lean, with knotted veins, meditating alone in the forest, him I call a Brahmin. Verse 396. Now him do I call Brahmin who is merely born of a Brahmin mother. Men may give him salutation as a Brahmin, though he be not detached from the world, but him I call Brahmin who has attachment of nothing. Verse 397. Him I call a Brahmin who has cut the bonds, who does not thirst for pleasures, who has left behind the hindrances. Verse 398. Whoso has cut the cable, and the rope and the chain with all its links, and has pushed aside the bolt, this wise one I call a Brahmin. Verse 399. Whoever bears patiently abuse and injury and imprisonment, whose bodyguard is fortitude, he is the Brahmin. Verse 400. He is the Brahmin who does not give way to anger, who is careful of religious duties, who is upright, pure, and controlled, who has reached his last birth. Verse 401. He who clings not to pleasures as water clings not to the lotus leaf, nor must accede to the needlepoint, him I call Brahmin. Verse 402. He is the Brahmin who in this very world knows the end of sorrow, who has laid the burden aside and is free. Verse 403. Whoso is wise with deep wisdom, seeing the right way and the wrong, and has reached the goal, him I call Brahmin. Verse 404. He is the Brahmin who is not entangled either with householders or with recluses, who has no home and few wants. Verse 405. He who lays down the rod, who neither kills nor causes the death of creatures, moving or fixed, he is the Brahmin. Verse 406. Not opposing those who oppose, calm amidst the fighters, not grasping amidst men who grasp, he is the Brahmin. Verse 407. He is the Brahmin from whom anger and hatred and pride and slander have dropped away, as the mustard seed from the needlepoint. Verse 408. If one were to preach gentle and instructive and truthful words by which no man is offended, he is the Brahmin. Verse 409. Whoso takes nothing small or great, good or bad, unless it be given him, he is the Brahmin. Verse 410. In whom are found no longings, who is freed and detached from this world and the next, he is the Brahmin. Verse 411. Him I call a Brahmin in whom lust is not found, who has cast off doubt, who knows the path that leads to nirvana and reaches it. Verse 412. Who in this life has passed from the grip of either merit or demerit, free of sorrow, cleansed and purified, him I call Brahmin. Verse 413. Who is clear as the moon, pure and limpid and serene, who has quenched his thirst for life. Verse 414. Who has passed through this impassable quagmire of rebirth and infatuation, has waded through it and got beyond it, who is meditative and supplies no fuel to the fires of lust and doubt, him I call a Brahmin. Verse 415. Who in this life, deserting his lusts, goes from home into solitude, and has quenched lust, and with it the desire to be reborn. Verse 416. Who in this life deserts craving, and goes from home into solitude, who has quenched craving, and with it the desire to be reborn, him I call Brahmin. Verse 417. Who has left behind him human pleasures and passed beyond heavenly ones, and is freed from all entanglement of delight. Verse 418. Who has left aside both gusto and disgust, who is cooled and has in him no spark of rebirth, victor in all worlds, and a hero, him I call Brahmin. Verse 419. He is the Brahmin who fully knows the perishing of living things in their uprising, who is detached and happy and wise. Verse 420. He is the Brahmin whose way is not known to gods, nor heavenly minstrels, nor immortals, the Arahat pure of all taint, him I call the Brahmin. Verse 421. Whoso has nothing left, of past or future or present states, who is poor and grasped at nothing, him I call Brahmin. Verse 422. The leader supreme, the heroic, the great Rishi, the victor without lust and purified, the Buddha, he is the Brahmin. Verse 423. He is the Brahmin indeed who knows his former lives, and who knows heaven and hell, who has reached the end of births, the sage whose knowledge is perfect, and who is perfect with all perfection. These are the words of the Buddha and the end of the Dhammapada.